And we are live on Skills Not Pills for another episode of wonderful inspiration, advice, message, potential on making this transition into another whole way of being, another framework of understanding life and your life challenges. And I am your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and the founder of the Skills Not Pills movement. And I'm very, very, very excited to invite today Carla White to the show. Thank you for being here, Carla.
Thank you for having me, Carrie.
I'm so excited for our conversation today. Today's topic is Reignite Your Spark, Resilience, using our experiences to energize and empower us. Carla White is an inspirational comedian and transformational speaker. She is the author of Reignite Your Spark, Simple Steps to Extinguish Stress and Go from Burned Out to Fired Up. And she's a 3-time international best-selling author, including Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Spirit of Canada. Through her writing, speaking, and mentoring, Carla shares life lessons with heart and humor. Her Reignite Your Spark Tour inspires love, laughter, and learning to empower people around the world, enhancing their mental and emotional well-being. And Carla's popular inspirational comedy show, yes, it's called Shut the Fuck Up, Confessions of an Angry Housewife, has audiences raving. So find more humor and wisdom from Carla at carla-white.ca. And oh my gosh, so excited to have you here today with us, Carla. So excited.
It's so much fun to be here with you. I'm really looking forward to this interview.
Yes, me too. So because you're funny, and humor makes difficult subjects more palatable.
It definitely does. In fact, what we found on the tour is that humor is really the avenue to healing. It's part of my story and part of what we're seeing for other people, and it's that way to really talk about kind of difficult subjects and put a funny spin on them.
So I know your background, and I know I just read your bio, but when we were talking about the Skills Not Pills, at our last time we met, I think was at the GIS and EBC conference in San Diego.
Yes.
The Evolutionary Business Council, in case you guys don't know what that is. And I was telling you about the program, and you had some interesting things to tell me about your background. You want to share what that is?
Sure. Well, I come from a nursing background. And so I was somebody who was 100% in the medical model. There was a pill for everything. I mean, when I had 3 kids under the age of 3, it was absolute pandemonium sometimes. And if somebody was acting out of sorts, they got Tylenol. I mean, I was somebody who was really, really into the medication. There's a pill. And I was at a point in my life eventually that I got to where I was diagnosed with depression. Mm-hmm. And I refused to go on the medication initially because I really believed that it was just a situational thing where my boss was an idiot. And, I ended up leaving work in tears, and my doctor said, well, you've got depression and anxiety, and you're off the charts. And I really, it was like, no, it doesn't, no, I'm not depressed or I'm not anxious. It's just this situation. Eventually I did go on the medication, and I was on medication for 10 years. And it was when I had a moment of real clarity that I decided I didn't want to be on the medication anymore, and I wanted to find a different way. And so I, with the use of my, help of my doctor, I weaned myself off the antidepressants. And then it was like, now what? What do I do without my happy pills? Like, that was how we referred to them, as the happy pills. And in fact, my daughter just not that long ago said to me, Mom, I thought that you were an addict because you kept saying, oh, I got to have my drugs. I got to take my drugs. That probably wasn't the very best thing.
The message we
wanted to I have a really different perspective on depression, anxiety, and kind of the emotional and mental well-being of people now from my own experience and some of the life experiences and the training that I've taken. I'm completely, I don't take medication for anything at this point. I take my vitamins because the doctor says that's a good thing. But I completely changed my mind. And that's why when you said skills, not pills, I was all on board because I think it's brilliant. I completely endorse the what you're doing here. I think it's amazing. And I think that, that's worth talking about and sharing with the world.
So now, what was your journey like?
I lost you. Did you unplug yourself?
I stepped on it. This is a new headset. I'm not used to this one. My other one burnt. My favorite headset got destroyed from too much talking. So, a new one. So, I know what my experience was coming off the medications, because I also was on antidepressants after the birth of my first child for probably about 10 to 12 years. And coming off of them, like, I tried to get off of them several times and I would just cry. Like, I would just cry all the time. And I was like, well, I can't be crying all the time and raising children. So I've got to go back on the pills. I mean, what was your experience like? Because that was my experience.
Mine was similar. I tried to go off the medication after I had my first daughter, and because I believed so much that it was all situational, all of my emotions were like, oh, well, that's because of this issue and that's because of that issue. And so for the longest time, I was looking at the external stuff and what was going on externally. And I tried to get off the medication. And then when I got pregnant with twins, and I went back to my doctor and I was like, put me back on the medication. And so I did go back on them. And then finally it was when, the kids they were still toddlers. And I was like, no, this is because what was happening with the medication was I wasn't feeling those lows, but I wasn't feeling the joy. And like, I had 3 healthy, beautiful children. My life was awesome. And I wasn't really feeling any of it. And so that was my reason finally for the getting off the medication was I wanted to experience life, like the highs and the lows of it. And that was kind of what started for me was, okay, so now I'm going to need to do that. And the part that for me is kind of, you shared a video and just recently, and he was talking about how depression is, we need to take a look at, I thought I wrote a note to myself about it, but it was just how he described it as, we have a reason for these reason we feel we do, like the anxiety and the grief. There was so much from my life that I had not processed, the emotions and the thoughts and all of that. And I really believe that, ultimately depression and anxiety, all of these kind of mental health issues that are coming up and people are being diagnosed with is kind of foundational with what your self-esteem is. I got all kinds of things going on. Let me shut them.
You're in demand.
Comes down to your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, and the thoughts and beliefs that you have going on. And that was the biggest problem that I needed to deal with was, okay, so here's my situation. What's the root cause of it? Because the medication only deals with the symptoms, not getting to the root cause.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the experience I had was that when I went off of them, I would start crying and everything, and I had to go back on them. But I had this awareness of like, yeah, I can't deal with that right now, whatever that is that's causing that. I can't deal with that right now. Like, I don't have time right now to look at that, right? There's this sense of like, there's priorities. Mm-hmm. And I think that people don't necessarily prioritize that journey within, that journey to heal. And the longer that you suppress it, the worse things get. I don't know. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, and it really, I mean, the bottom line is we're all human beings. And part of the human experience is our emotions. And our emotions really give us, they give us clues as to what's going on. And it's our thoughts and our beliefs that have this tendency to get us into trouble. I'm a chronic overthinker. And so I could see myself going down what I call the stress spiral, where, my thoughts just start churning and churning and churning. And I still get into these modes. And would it be easier to take a pill to make it all go? You bet it would. Sometimes it would. And so I'm definitely an advocate for people. The medication is there to help people who are at that stage of needing something to kind of keep them. I mean, certainly if someone is having thoughts of harming themselves or suicidal, there is a time and a place for the medication. And when someone's looking at weaning themselves off of the medication, I think that's like when they've woken up and sort of said, okay, there's a different way, there's something else here, and start to work on kind of that personal inner journey. And whoever called it the dark night of the soul grossly underestimated the timeline of that, because it was my dark night of the soul was like 10 or 12 years long.
Yeah, it's not exactly a night.
Exactly. And so it is a process, and there's layers, and there's so much of it that and then these life experiences happen. And so much of what has happened is we've pushed our big, strong emotions away and not dealt with them, thinking, oh, I'll just push that away. I won't feel it, or I don't want to feel it. It's scary to feel it. And then the problem is that they don't go away. It's kind of like a ball. You push it down in the water and it pops up, and it pops up. And that's what creates the problems, is it doesn't go away until you actually deal with it.
Yeah. A lot of people listen to what we're saying, I think, and they go, that seems like a whole lot of something difficult. However, my experience of exploring the shadow was like, when I realized that there are different modalities and ways that I could go after it, was like fascinating, actually. It's probably been the most fascinating 8 years of my life. Way more fascinating than the years in therapy, like sitting on a couch. Like that was torture compared to this.
Yes.
For me, that's my personal experience.
It's completely liberating when you, so part of what I did was sort of the path that I was on was studying with Jack Canfield, the Chicken Soup for the Soul co-creator, and doing his Train the Trainer program and the success principles. And it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how to train and do all of this stuff. And what really ended up happening was he said, okay, well, you need to, if you're going to train this, then you have to live it. You have to it's like becoming a coach. You got to work out your own crap before you can really ultimately coach other people.
Absolutely.
And so it started the whole journey. And one of the first success principles is taking 100% responsibility. Well, when I heard that, I was pretty pissed off. It was like, are you kidding me? Like, do you have any idea how big I am, how much responsibility I have, all of this stuff? And for a long time, it was like, no, my 5-year-old self was stamp my foot on the floor and say, no, I am not doing that. I am not taking any more responsibility. And when I finally kind of came around to that, like, oh, wait a minute. I'm the only person who can change my perspective. I'm the only person who can really do anything with my thoughts and my beliefs, and stopped looking externally for the answers. That's when all of a sudden it was like, holy cow, like, this is the life that I want to live. Like, I want to get back. And it's so much the joy and the, like, that childhood exuberance is within all of us. it's just a, like sort of processing and releasing and letting go kind of the crap and crud that's covered it up through our life experiences. And then it's there, and then you uncover it, and it's like so amazing when you uncover it. And at first it's like these little glimpses of it. You uncover it, and it's like, ooh, I had a happy moment there. And
I
then
remember what happy was.
and then it starts to sort of, you gain momentum with it. So yeah, I mean, it can sound scary. And what was more scary for me was staying the way that I was. Staying, not, leading that legacy of love and laughter and just amazing life, and not experiencing that. And that was for my kids, this isn't who I wanted to be for my kids. And so the fear of that was way stronger than the fear of like, okay, I got to take a look at this, and I got to do something about it. And so there's processes and things, tools that I use that kind of helped make it more palatable to get back to, because ultimately it's a spiritual journey to get back to who you are, because at your core, your love, your spirit, your soul is love. So,
and avoiding responsibility and acting as if you are still a teenager that has no responsibilities and can act out. I think one of the moments, I don't believe I'm going to share this one. I don't know what I'm thinking. But one of the moments for me that I came into that awareness was I had this murder mystery parties. I used to throw these murder mystery parties. And we did this one on a boat one time. We had like 25 people on the boat, and everybody had a role, so you play that character, and you have like your checklist, like I've got to get this information from that person, and you have your objectives and all this. It was fun. And of course we had booze, so we're drinking, on my antidepressants, by the way. So drinking copious amounts of wine, and you know how wine goes, your glass is empty and then somebody fills it. So yes. I was drunk off my ass. And at the end of the evening, my husband's driving. They had to haul me up the cliff to get back in the car. And I'm like, I didn't weigh anything because I'd been running all these marathons. And so I was super skinny. I didn't have any fat on me at all. And I was just so drunk. And I get in the car, and on the way home, I couldn't even make the journey home. I had to roll the window down and puke out the window. And I look over, and mind you, I'm wearing a pirate costume from Victoria's Secret. Yeah, just get the visual, people. And I'm puking out the window, and I look over, and there's this nice Asian couple driving next to us, and their look on their face was so horrified, like, what is this grown-ass woman doing? And it was such a reckoning. I was like, what am I doing? Yeah. What am I doing? I'm on these pills. I'm drinking to oblivion. And I've got little kids, like my kids were in elementary school. What am I doing? And the whole time I was not present. Mm-hmm. I wasn't, and I was angry. I love that you had that Angry Housewife, because I was so freaking pissed.
Yeah, yeah.
There was like no time and space for me in that whole equation of being the mom and the housewife, and, the expectations and the domestication of all this. And I think there's a lot of women in that space, and we got to turn and face it to reclaim our power, Carla.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The pill's not going to keep you from that journey, In
fact, the pills are not really going to help in that situation. And we've had those, and that's what I mean about using our experiences, like the good and the bad, the bad, and the ugly experiences, to have those wake-up calls, to have that, like, wait a second, what's the lesson I meant to learn here? What do I need to, and not shaming ourselves and guilting ourselves about these experiences, but looking at them from a different perspective of, hey, wait a second, what's going on here? Like, that was your aha moment.
I was like, wow. And the worst part I didn't even say was that my cousin, who was being my daughter, we kind of took her in. She's in the back seat.
Yeah.
Like, this is the person I became for a while.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
my journey to me.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't, it's like I was just doing everything to not face it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that it takes as long as it takes for people to, you know, first of all, to have an experience where, and oftentimes that's why I do the damn it habits instead of SMART goals, because it's like I'm into the corner going, damn it, I need to change. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. And so I created a whole process that I use instead of SMART goals, because it's like, okay, I'm really ambitious. I really want to have all of these things, but the SMART goals just felt really regimented and restrictive, and yeah, it
doesn't appeal to the rebel inside.
Because I'm a little, yeah, no, I'm really rebellious, and which is a show with a swear word in it. You know, my poor grandmothers are always used to say, you know, I can hear their voices. They both passed now, but I can hear their voices every time I talk at the show, and every time I say the F word, it's like, nice girls don't swear. Ladies don't swear. And I always say that I might live in the White House, but I'm telling you, no one's ever accused me of being a lady. So, you know, it's who I am. It's like, you know what? I'm edgy. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. And there was a time when when I was depressed, I was really suppressing who I am. And I really needed to learn to get over kind of the let go of worrying about what other people think of me. That was one of my big life lessons, was it didn't matter so much what other people thought of me. It mattered way more what I thought of me. And so that's, you know, really the story that's in the book is kind of that journey from the darkness of depression, where I didn't love myself at all. And I had a nasty inner critic, inner bully. And I've moved now, transitioned to be, you know, full of love and laughter and light. And it was a process, and it was just recognizing that I can use each of the experiences I've had in my life, good or bad, and they can either teach me something or I can celebrate them. If they're good, then I celebrate them. And if they're not so good, it's like, what do I have to learn here? So yeah,
good and bad is such a relative thing. You know, good and bad is just a judgment that we place on things. And like that moment for me was probably one of my lower moments. I got to say, it's probably not my lowest moment, just because if you read my memoir, you'll know why I'm saying that. Oh, I was extremely rebellious, and I really wanted to screw up. So I did a lot of things. But that moment was actually a beautiful moment. It was a beautiful moment because it helped me to face myself without any doubt. Like, is this who you want to be?
Right.
These people are witnessing you, and they haven't been on your journey. They're not part of your demented world.
Right.
They're not part of this craziness you created. They're outside of that. And they're reflecting back to you with their horror faces like, what is that you're creating? And it's a beautiful moment when you get things like that. And it helps you reckon, you know, it's a time of reckoning. Yeah. It's a time of seeing, and we're having a time of we're not going to go there, but we are having a time of reckoning right now in our nation and in our world. We're seeing the underbelly. I would say that for me was my underbelly. It was the way that I was hiding from myself, the way that I loathed who I was being. And I needed the drugs and the alcohol to cover it up. And my throat was blocked. I wouldn't speak. I would just go hide. I would go run away to an art show instead of speaking it, even though I was on the couch every week, ironically. Yeah. Yeah. So I share these stories, and I love this conversation because I love your Angry Housewife thing. And I happen to know that a vast majority of the people taking pharmaceuticals are white women in their 40s. And this is exactly why I'm bringing this up right now, because there's a vast demographic that looks a lot like us. And this is probably really close to the reason that they're on those pills.
Absolutely. We don't experience grief in our lives. We don't experience, we don't give ourselves permission to experience and to really go into the depths of grief, the resentment that we feel, the guilt that we feel, like all of these emotions that come up. There's no sort of healthy release of them, which is why I'm doing stand-up comedy. And I get to say these things, but it's the whole idea that when I was being treated for depression, I was a scrapbooker. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a scrapbooker. So we would all get together at these scrapbook crops, and like I would say probably 8 out of 10 when we sat around and talked about it were being treated. They went to their doctor because they were exhausted, they were angry, they were crying, they were just at their wits' end. And they go to their doctor because they didn't know where else to go. And they would get labeled as depression or anxiety or whatever other mental illness that a doctor, that's what they do. They diagnose disease and illness, and it's a medical model. So it's not a wellness model, it's a sickness model. And this is what the doctor is able to do. Here you go. Here's an antidepressant. You're depressed. And I looked at that and thought, I don't think that that's the answer. The answer is not like, let's medicate it. The answer is, let's find an outlet. Let's support one another. Let's, have a community where it's a non-judgment zone of, hey, you know what, this is what you're going through. And that's when I started to recognize, you know what, I need to tell my story because I've been through it, and I've come out the other side. And there's still days when I go back and I've had some experiences that plunged me deep into grief after coming off the medication. And you had said, the good and the bad. Part of the meditation retreat, the 10-day silent meditation retreat that I went to, what the teaching is that it's not good or bad. It just is.
It just is.
It just is. And that's where we can take our experiences and go, oh, okay, you know what? That's what it is. What can I learn from it? How can I celebrate it? Recognizing all of that. And yeah, it was, for me, that's part of doing the comedy show, writing the book. All of this is, my message is really about reigniting your spark, which your spark is that soul, that love, that light that's deep in our hearts. And it's predominantly for women in that 40 plus, because they get to that place in their life when it's like, is this all there is? So I'm going to numb it with wine, or I'm going to escape, or whatever that is. I was there. I was absolutely there. And that's, and still, I still have times when I go there. And the difference now is I give myself permission to feel what I'm feeling. Like I do the sort of the ABCs of, okay, I have to allow, I wake up and I feel crappy. And there's like the whole positive psychology movement. I agree that, sometimes we have to talk ourselves into a positive experience. And at the same time, I think that trying to move to, oh, no, I'm not upset, I'm happy, and trying to talk yourself into it without doing the healing process, it just is kind of like, you might as well beat your head against the wall, because it's your subconscious mind is going to go, that's really nice. No, you're not happy. And so I allow myself to feel what I'm feeling, and to see that as a, hey, why am I feeling this? So it's more of an inquiry, a curiosity of, okay, so why do I feel like I want to punch my husband when I see him? Like, why do I feel like I want to, scream at the kids? Why do I feel like all of that? Coming from a place of more curiosity than anything, it's like, okay, so what is that about? And we can trace it back to thoughts and beliefs that we have, and that those are what are creating the emotions that are coming up. So
yeah, and not to judge yourself for being in that space.
Yeah.
Something came up for me when you were talking earlier about the comedy that I wanted to just resurface now, and then we're going to be wrapping up in just a minute.
Yeah.
But when you have conquered your story, meaning you face that big dragon that you've been running from and hiding from, you claim your power back. Now from that clean place of like, yeah, I got this, I love myself, I'm good, you can go back and tell that old story, and it's a whole different thing. Because you, before Angry Carla, saying Angry Housewife, you know, shut the fuck up, has a whole different vibration that people go, I don't want to know that, right?
Yeah.
Because we're in it.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, you can go back and people are relieved that you said it. So it's funny how the whole energy changes with our story as we tell it from a new place of healing. Mm-hmm. It's the same story.
Yeah.
Different perception, different place, different understanding. It's the same story. And so you're not going to change your story. It is what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But you're going to come to a different place inside with it, that when you show up in a room, people like, I'm sure you guys look at Carla. She's in her power. She's just relaxed with it. She loves her. She accepts it enough that she can go out and talk about it and be on a comedy stage. It's so comforting, right?
Yeah, it absolutely, when you, like, I used to do a lot of self-deprecating. I mean, even when I was depressed and going through all of this, I love to make people laugh. And so I did a lot of self-deprecating humor. I would poke at my husband. I talk a little bit about my regrets about how I treated him, bullied him in the process, like when I wrote it in the book. But the difference now is that the humor comes from a place of love and acceptance of, okay, so that's what it was. And this is what I wanted to say, and all of these things. So that the anger part is no longer angry, but that's where so many people are. And so, yeah, I mean, it 100%, the energy of the humor, it's not so caustic and like in your face now as it's, you know what, oh my God, you guys, this is how we are. This is who we, like, let's laugh about it because it's so real. And so this is, my gosh, this is what's happening in so many households. And when I talk about my husband and now, my relationship with him, people are going, yes. And so it's, laughter for me is just it's a barometer that tells sort of when I'm laughing, I know that mentally and emotionally I'm doing good. And when I can laugh about an experience, that's when I know that I've healed. So it's kind of that barometer. And it's also a tool that I use. Like when I was going through the Canada's largest evacuation, I used that gallows humor to help get me through. It's like, you know what? If I'm not laughing, I'm going to be crying. And recognizing that sometimes that's exactly what I needed to do was cry.
Crying
and release that. Absolutely. Crying is so therapeutic. Crying and laughing, two different extremes and two different ways to deal with it, but both work.
Yeah. And I think we need a little of both in our lives. Wow. What a beautiful message that you had for us today, Carla. And I'm so blessed to know you as a friend and be connected with you. And wow, what an awesome person. You guys should check out her website and check out her tour. I know that you'll enjoy it. I know I'm excited to see your show. I haven't seen your show yet. I want to see it. I know it just came out, so I'm like raring to go. And, just to let you guys know out there, if this resonates with you, there's more touches, with people like Carla in our membership that's coming out. So we're busy in the formulation of that right now. It's coming together. It looks really great. I'm so excited about it, to be creating a community for people that are ready to take that journey to a whole new framework of being, right? Like from I'm disempowered, I don't know what to do, I have to go to my doctor gives me a pill and then I just take it and I don't really like it, but I don't know what else to do, to like, wait a second, I'm in charge of this journey, dang it, and I get to decide And I'm going to do the hard work to
Yeah.
make that happen so I can have a beautiful life standing in my power. Isn't that beautiful, Carla? I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
I'm like, kudos to you, because I know that this journey has been like, you were, oh my gosh, what is it? And when I heard the title of the movement, like skills not, that's brilliant. It's so brilliant. And one of those things that it's like, gee, I wish I thought of that. But we all have our message, and I think like, it's just so amazing, and I'm so thrilled for you that you've got the movement, and you've got some momentum going with people, and you did that really, really great telesummit, and you've got some incredible experts that are coming on. So kudos. Pat yourself on the back.
Yay! My wings are coming out.
Yes, there you go.
So I'm really excited. I'm happy to have you join us, and I'm happy that you came on this live, and I welcome everybody to keep an eye out for the movement, and go to skillsnotpillsmovement.com, sign up. That way you'll be notified of the membership when it comes out. And you'll see people like Carla up there to help you on your journey. So love and blessings, everybody, and have a blessed day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.